Everybody, standing room only at the back, so thank you very much. It's a full house because this is going to be a fascinating talk, I'm sure. Lucy will introduce our keynote speaker to you in a moment. My name is Martin Blackwell. I'm Head of Operations at the Business Improvement District in the city, and we're working with our opposite numbers in Great Yarmouth and Kings Lynn. And the three of us Business Improvement Districts got together to put a funding application together to central government for community renewal funds. And in typical government fashion, they said last year, thank you for your application, we'll give you the results in the summer. And in the summer they said, actually we'll tell you in the autumn. And in the autumn they said, we'll probably tell you before Christmas. And then they did, and they said, and can you deliver it now immediately, please? That's how government works, and we have hit the ground running. This leaflet describes the elements of this particular project. In small print at the bottom it says available until June 22, but because of the delayed start, that's actually now been extended and is likely to run until September. So this business support space is going to be here at least until June and hopefully beyond. And this is for any business to drop in and get some information and some help and support on delivering businesses within the city. But within this, there are three specific elements of training support. And they are leisure and hospitality, and that has really taken off. There's been huge changes in that sector, and so giving them support, helping them train staff, new people coming into the industry has been really fantastic. And over 500 people have been through that training program already. Climate change is a key issue, and so there's an extra element in here which is about becoming a net zero waste champion. So for every business in the city, we've got one-to-one support that can help you put together an action plan to help you move towards net zero. So again, access to all these is through the Onwards Norfolk website. And I stress everything here is fully funded and free. But the one I particularly want to mention, which sort of ties into what we're going to be talking about later, is around digital skills. Everybody thinks that we need to be up to date with our digital skills, and some people have made tremendous progress. But at the forum, not in here, but in the main forum, on Saturday the 23rd of April, which isn't far away, we have a full day accredited course, Digital Skills Marketing Strategy Workshop. So this is for businesses to take them a step beyond the basics. So if you're familiar with websites and a bit of social media, this is an intensive one-day course that gives you a qualification at the end. So Lucy's going to send out the details of this to everybody who's here today. So it is a full-on day, but really worthwhile, about taking your business to the next level using digital skills to be able to do so. So that's the program. These are scattered around the room. Grab one of those, have a look at the website. Anything you want to get involved with, please do. Any questions you've got, we'll be around. And I stress, it's all free. Thank you. Lucy, over to you.
Thank you so much, Martin. Hi everyone, well welcome, and it's great to see you all here today. Thank you for coming along. I'm Lucy, and I'm the Managing Director of Norfolk Network. We're a very active and connected business membership organisation, a community that comes together. We're founders and we're directors of startups and growing businesses, self-employed, freelancers, consultants, and we have a very special relationship with the UEA and City College, and the UEA academics and students have access to the network as well. So really we're about coming together to build those really important business relationships, and also what's at the heart of what we do is knowledge exchange, so sharing knowledge and learning from each other, and giving members the opportunity to share what they know and to learn from each other and offer that peer support. So there's a lot going on. I organise various different events, and we have different platforms for members and beyond to sort of talk. We have mixers where members are together just learning together. We have public webinars and keynotes. And this is a new platform, which is really, really exciting for us to be working with Norwich BID, who are a very dynamic and forward-thinking organisation. And they're very passionate about the vibrancy of the city, and so are we. So it's great to be partnering with them. And this gives me a chance to design a 20-week, 20 speakers. I think this is week 9 now. No, 8th or 9th? 8th. Right. You haven't done it yet. So I'm working with some great sort of innovators and visionary leaders, and we're covering a lot of different subjects. Sometimes it's about a specific, like we had Anthony, who's over there talking about sustainability in his business and transformation, and that's really, really important. And then other people have been very kind of confessional about their careers and what's really important to them. So today I'm so delighted to welcome Niky. So Niky's a marketeer who's worked all over the tech sector, and he's moved across industries as innovation happens, and has built a career out of translating that innovation to consumers. So he's the head of marketing at Norwich-based Immersive Studios, who are a pioneering mixed reality production studio. So my curiosity for the metaverse really led me to Niky. I've been really, really looking forward to this talk, and I've got lots of questions like, what is it? What does it matter? What does it matter? And what does it look like? And how will people use it? And so when will we be living in the metaverse, Niky? Over to you.
Thank you very much, Lucy. As you said, my name's Niky. I'm the marketing manager for Immersive Studios, which is one of those job titles that doesn't really tell you anything about what I do on a day-to-day basis. Immersive Studios, we've been going since about 2014, and we make VR, augmented reality, 360 video, CGI, and drone. All the cool stuff is what we make. And my job there is to kind of translate that and bring it to anyone that we're speaking to. Immersive have kind of been really in that space for some time, and as kind of some of the old guard. And it's quite difficult to kind of bring everyone into it, which is where I come in. My day-to-day, if you were to ask my parents, they'd probably think I draw posters or spend too much time online, one of which is true. And advertising marketing is a lot more Excel spreadsheets than Mad Men would have you believe. So it's kind of drill away from my day-to-day and talk about the core of what I do. As Lucy mentioned, it's a lot about understanding complicated things, concepts or products and those sorts of things, drilling them down and kind of grounding them in a space that people understand. And given the sort of conversations we end up having, I'm basically a primary school teacher for CEOs. So it's basically taking these complicated ideas, bringing them down and taking them into a boardroom to people who are going to spend maybe one day a week in an office, and they're going, I want to know what that is. So that's fundamentally what I do. And why don't we kick these things off in the traditional fashion and I ask a rhetorical question. What is the metaverse? Quite simply, it's not this crazy thing in the future. It's Web3. Some of you may have heard this term before. So those of you who are young enough, like myself, to remember the advent of Web 2.0 and everyone kind of gassing it up, and then what it actually became was, social media, selfies, and Twitter hot takes. So this is Web 3, and we can kind of take some of those learnings. Web 1 was a kind of information repository and like a pretty static communication system. Web 2 was like the advent of user-generated content, and suddenly the internet was a two-way space, and we would build the internet. It would be in our hands. And Web 3 or the metaverse is kind of crucially how the internet interacts with us as well as the other way around. So we're going to see some shifts, but it's not this big scary thing. It kind of got the public's attention pretty recently with Mark Zuckerberg telling everyone that he's changed his company's name to Metaverse and he's investing $10 billion into the space, and other companies quickly followed suit by throwing money at the problem. It's not going to be, at least anytime soon, that kind of VR headset wearing Second Life, we're all going to waste away in our physical bodies and exist only in the digital realm. That part's not happening. The metaverse is fundamentally how we interact with the internet. And what we will see is the internet and real life will kind of blur those lines. So you'll see aspects of the internet in your day-to-day life where previously you wouldn't have, and it's the world becoming connected and then people becoming connected to that world. So we'll kind of blur the digital and real worlds. It's become so compelling in those spaces because it's fundamentally the metaverse. The metaverse is not a new idea. Anyone who's read any articles about the metaverse at all, and I assume you've read either some or know nothing about it, or both for being here, you've heard people mention Snow Crash, which is an old dystopian sci-fi novel from 1992, and that's where this metaverse term was coined. This is where it originates from, and it's this virtual world. I think it's like a street that's 40,000 miles long, and it's this urban environment that people spend all their lives in, and they become grey and they waste away. And between this and a lot of tech billionaires kind of racing to Mars, we're sort of, you could be forgiven for thinking we're entering our own sort of dystopian sci-fi world. But this idea has been around for quite a long time. It's not new, it's not brand new, it's not, we've been building at Immersive, we've been building this technology since 2014, which is pre-Oculus Kickstarter, for those who remember, before Oculus was owned by Facebook, now Meta. Like these tools have been around for a while. In fact, a really good example of a metaverse that people don't really think of as one. Anyone remember the summer of 2016? Pokemon Go was everywhere. We're all on our phones looking through the little AR lens, and you could make the argument, as I have done and I'm about to continue to do, that was a metaverse. That was a virtual world overlaid over our own that people used and accessed via the internet. This kind of like distilling of terms kind of really opens it up to people, and it's about using these connected tools. And if that's what the metaverse is, kind of at the end of the day, sign me up. I don't need Ready Player One. I don't need to exist in a VR headset. I'm just happy, chasing little guys around, a beach. It's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of purpose to those sorts of things. And this kind of technology has to ground itself in the real world, and as a result, has to be seen as productive, because we've seen that a lot of technology falls short as gimmicks. We've had to combat that argument for many, many years. I'm sure anyone involved in this kind of technology, I know that a lot of people think things like 360 video are gimmicky, and they're just really not. It's really easy just to say, oh, but like we'll just put a picture up, and like it's different. Being in a space in virtual reality is just a different experience. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, then a 360 picture is worth 36,000. The math makes sense. So you kind of evolve and grow in this space, and you kind of build this version of the metaverse and find things that people are going to use. But why are people so, het up on making these insane predictions of it? We joke at Immersive and say that we could probably open a VR museum with the amount of headsets we've got lying around the office. I think we have one of everything that's been publicly available in the UK, at least in recent times. But why are people so insistent on making these wild predictions? And it's because it's exciting, it's because there's a lot of money, and everyone likes to be right. So if you're very vague on Twitter, you'll probably be right in 5 years. You can go, look what I did, I was right. There's also, people are rebranding themselves as like metaverse creatives, and I think I've seen more LinkedIn job changes over the past year or so than I have ever. We've seen digital agencies rebrand themselves as metaverse agencies and kind of jump on the word, the metaverse, and in all likelihood it's going to be metaverses as people build their own spaces in this decentralized kind of universe, much like the internet. So people are going to use this technology the same way they do the internet. But people are going to make wild predictions up until it exists. The thing to really understand is that Mark Zuckerberg isn't going to define what the metaverse is. Anyone that's investing billions and billions isn't going to define what the metaverse is. Technology needs people to succeed, so the people that use it are going to define what that is. So, if we build these huge virtual spaces, I know, Meta have been building Horizon Worlds, which is a kind of virtual social space with spaces for meeting and all of those things. If people use it, that's great, and then that will exist, and that will form part of our perception of the metaverse. But if people make something that people don't want to use, It's not going to be our perception. We as users will define what that is, and it will shift and change just like the internet did. When I was young, you didn't put any personal information on the internet. It could be you don't talk to strangers. You don't show your face, and now it's every given opportunity, I've got a picture of my face up there, and I'm sharing some deep personal tidbit just so I can get a few likes on Twitter. It's these things, like, they shift and change, and as will our perception of what the metaverse is. So kind of as a starting point, it's to kind of dismantle the kind of media perception of what this is. This is not one, we're not all going to plug into Facebook's algorithm. We're not all going to disappear from this physical realm and exist only online. It's about going, right, these are the constituent parts that build our perception of the metaverse. How do they affect me? How do they affect the people around me and their everyday lives? Some things are going to become really, really common, and some things will probably die out and not be used. We at Immersive over lockdown used Spatial, which is like a virtual meeting app. At least the 3D team did, because it allowed them to remotely examine 3D assets. So the same way you would examine a sculpture. So they would, in virtual reality, all from the comfort of their own homes, put the 3D asset they've been building in the center of the table, and they could move around and review and talk about kind of creative vision in this virtual world. And it's a very valuable tool. However, going back into the office, we're not immediately jumping back in there, because it has its value and it will need to shift before it becomes, either it or the world will need to shift before it becomes commonplace. So fundamentally, productivity will kind of be a big part in the adoption of this technology, as well as people's willingness to use it. A lot of the kind of conversation around it is VR. So, stepping into a completely and entirely virtual world and, losing yourself and all of these things. But people in the space I know are talking a lot about augmented reality. So how are these technologies going to be used, and kind of what value do they bring to life? So I'm going to talk a lot about augmented reality in day-to-day, because personally, I see that adapting and growing and becoming more useful, more so than virtual reality, in the more immediate future. So you'll see these like metaverse tools, or this metaverse ready content, which has existed since 2010, be used for like augmented goggles. That's where the tech space is kind of evolving. Not to say that VR isn't, but so I normally wear a hearing aid, and it's a very big bulky thing. It's poorly designed. The wonderful thing about a hearing aid is the microphone points backwards, which is helpful to no one. But if my glasses that I'm already wearing were augmented reality, and I could have a conversation with someone, and I could have subtitles, I wouldn't need to put that back in. And that's like a piece of augmented tech that would just kind of evolve the world around it. That's taking an experience that's in the real world. You can translate that stuff, so you can put it through the internet and then back into my experience of an augmented world. You can build that up to be navigation tools. So using Google Maps for walking or driving and those sort of things, having like an actual arrow or directional points in your field of view mean that you'd have to look down. How many times have you bumped into someone who's on their phone when you're walking through a busy street? It just wouldn't happen. It would be there in front of you. So that's kind of augmented reality taking an immediate effect in your real world. Alternatively, VR social meeting spaces, VR games and experiences. You're going to see the quality of what we do already improve. So people's metaverse footprint is going to be largely similar to the way they use their phones. We're not going to people aren't going to massively change the way they kind of operate. At least I know I'm not. If all of a sudden the younger generations are putting headsets on and spending all of their time there, I'm still going to want to go outside. I'm not going to be one of those people. And maybe I'll be the last holdout, but you'll see people evolve as new generations come in. There will be a pretty drastic drop off. Just like my parents thought I spent too much time on my phone, I still do. I'll probably think people spend too much time in VR and on AR. And these tools will become part of everyday life, but they will also form part of our working lives. And this is the really interesting part, at least for us. So, like everything that takes over your life, it starts in marketing, and we sell it to you over and over and over and over again. Immersive is, we've built a business off of providing immersive marketing tools. So having a branded experience in virtual reality, or having viewing a space in 360 is immediately better for the person viewing it. It's so much more immersive. It's so much more engaging, and you also get that filter where in your day-to-day life, even when I'm looking at my phone, I can see the things around me. So if I'm engaging with a brand on social media or watching a video, like the world is still happening around me. I'm hyper aware of that stuff. If I'm virtually in a space, it is you put blinkers on. You're just in that brand experience. You get an engaged audience. People, they watch the brand experiences for longer than they do like traditional, like a YouTube video or something. So that's how marketing, we're going to see that more and more. Like this is what the back of immersive has been built on, in that we've been building this content since 2014, and we've seen more and more people adopt it, especially in the pandemic. Like that was a huge uplift in people's desire for this technology. Our work with UEA, we did a completely virtual open day, as well as like an online platform, and you'll see these things kind of evolve, especially for places like UEA who are a little bit further out of the city and trying to get people to experience Norwich. They trying to draw people in is it's a bit of a challenge. You're already going out of your way to go to an open day. Why do you want to drive in and just experience the city again? Kind of bringing all these experiences in one space is really valuable. But it's going to evolve from there. So, like we mentioned, virtual meeting spaces. There's something that's lost about remote working when it comes to company culture for a lot of companies, and that was a really big worry kind of at this kind of working from home movement, is that they were going to lose some of their company culture. And that's understandable. It's hard to kind of share a smile through Slack or engage with someone through email. Like tonally, some things might get lost in these things. With virtual meeting and VR teleconferencing, you can put a bit more of that personality back into it. You can kind of engage with them on a more human level than you could through traditional teleconferencing means. I'm pretty sure we're all bored of Zoom calls at this point. But a virtual, it's got like just a bit more substance to it, and you're in that space. Whereas when you're on a Zoom call, the amount of times your eyes just sort of wander from what's on the screen in front of you, and just suddenly the wall behind your computer screen becomes very interesting. We're going to see these productivity tools come in, and then it's going to evolve again. So we're going to see like remote consultations. So having experts be able to fundamentally teleconference in, diagnostic and building tools. So we actually built a tool for the Microsoft HoloLens a little while back, which allowed engineers and people that were putting up screens for like audiovisual setups, we would overlay the kind of building information. So they would see where wires and pipes were from behind the walls just through these AR lenses, and then they could not have to worry and not spend ages trying to figure this stuff out and looking through. You can kind of evolve that. But more than that, if you've got an expert whose opinion that you really want, or if you've got like an IT technician who trying to deal with like a server, and you go, right, they're not here, how do I get them here? They can step into VR, and you can get someone to walk in with a camera and go, right, you're here, like, can you see this? If anyone's ever just tried to give someone directions over the phone or try to tell someone how to do something from a distance, you know how frustrating it is, and sometimes you just want to go, no, please just let me do it. There's muscle memory, or I'm really bad with, I don't know any of my passwords, but I type them all in first try. Because if somebody asks me what my password is, I could not tell you. But in front of the keyboard, it's just muscle memory. It just goes through, or your that kind of visual prompt. These things can be done remotely with this technology, and you can achieve some of that with just recording something or putting something out. But there's something more engaging about this content. Anyone who's experienced VR will know how it is. It just envelops you, and you experience these like worlds and these other things. And if you can bring that into the workspace, you'll get a more engaged remote workforce. Additionally, augmented reality lenses for various kind of tech solutions. We will get one of the big things that we pitched to someone is server tools, and having stats come up on the kind of the lens. So, anyone who's dealt with IT stuff, having to go back to a screen or just trying to get that readout elsewhere and then coming back to it. And it's good to have that kind of access to that information immediately. So when you move a wire, you can see exactly what's happening on these AR goggles and all of these things. This kind of remote cultural stuff, this technological, this kind of teleconferencing. This is the future of that stuff. And, it's going to permeate our everyday life with the games and media consumption. But these are things we already use devices for. If you think about everything we've gone through, these are things we already use our phones for more than our computers for. This technology is going to maybe not replace, maybe not for a long time, but it's going to be a stand-in for what we use our phones more than what we use our computers for. Because it's going to be a long time before, we still can't edit videos and pictures to the extent we can on the computer on our phones, but it will be easier to replicate what we do on our phones with this technology. So when you think about the metaverse, think about kind of pulling that back and going, what do I use and what do I use technology for? And you'll see a pretty clear line between what you do and could do on your phone, even from phone calls, and how it can be replaced with this technology. It's not going to be a really high-end editing PC anytime soon. And it's not going to be, a really high-end gaming experience anytime soon. It's more than likely going to be a communication tool, and it's going to be an engagement tool. And these are the things that, people want to build these decentralized spaces so that, they can have inter-office communications, and that's sort of what we're going to end up with. So instead of having one giant metaverse, I think companies and brands are going to have, their own metaverses, so you can experience their brand, and it would function similarly to an intranet, if anyone remembers those. I don't know if they're still talking about. Those kind of inter-office tools and being able to connect. It would replace things like Microsoft Teams or Slack and Zoom and things like that. They become company tools that people just get used to using. Where do we look like in the time frame? Some people will tell you, this is the distant future. Some people like myself will be like, well, that stuff's happening now. It is just happening now. And the best thing you can do to ready yourself for that is just understand what's happening now and how you're already using things like your mobile phone. Because that's how you're going to be using the metaverse. This isn't some crazy thing that's going to be, cosmic shift. You're not going to step into a pod one day and never step out. This is not a cosmic shift in at least our lifestyles. Maybe the next generations, they're going to kind of evolve into these all-encompassing experiences. But these things are shaped by users, not by tech billionaires. So they will create the tools that we want to use, not the other way around. Thank you. I've deliberately left it quite short because I was hoping there would be some questions, and I think that's where we can get into some specifics that might actually interest people.
Right, thank you so much indeed.